3 months after the confrontation at Unity Station, the medical bay had been transformed into a cultural exchange center. Light and darkness sat in the middle of a group of starborn children, their patterns dancing together in a beautiful display of emotions. And that's how the humans helped me remember who we really are. Light and darkness finished telling their story. The other children watched in wonder, their own patterns flowing naturally, instead of being confined to rigid geometric shapes. Dr. Anna stood with Captain Kate near the observation window, watching the scene with satisfaction. The genetic awakening process has been successfully tested on over 1,000 volunteers now, she reported. No negative effects, just the return of natural emotional capacity. And the council? Kate asked, turning to High Commander Vale, who looked remarkably different now. His patterns flowed freely, and his face showed subtle expressions that would have been unthinkable months ago. Change is never easy, Vale admitted, actually smiling, something that still felt new and wonderful to him. But the evidence was undeniable. When the first council members underwent the awakening, they understood. We couldn't hide the truth any longer. Through the window, they could see Parent Ray working with Tom in the research section. After months in hiding, they had finally emerged when the council granted amnesty to all families with unauthorized emotional children. Now they were helping develop protocols for safely awakening others who wished to reclaim their emotional heritage. The galaxy's response has been overwhelming. Assistant Ray added, joining them. His own patterns now matched the natural flow of his siblings. Other species that once feared or dismissed us are reaching out. They want to help with the transition. Not everyone is happy about the changes, Vale cautioned. Some still believe emotions make us weak. They've chosen to maintain their suppression. And that's okay, Light and Darkness said, surprising the adults as they approached. Parent Ray says we have to respect their choice, just like they have to respect ours now. That's what emotions teach us. Understanding. Kate knelt down to the child's level. You've helped change your entire society. Little one, how does that feel? Light and Darkness's patterns swirled with a mix of joy, pride, and a touch of embarrassment. I didn't do it alone. You humans showed us that having a heart doesn't make you heartless. Being emotional doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong enough to help others, even when they don't understand why. The station's communication system chimed softly. Unity Station, this is the starborn education vessel Hope's Light, requesting docking clearance. We have more families wanting to go through the awakening process. Speaking of helping others, Dr. Anna said with a smile, heading to prepare for the new arrivals. Light and Darkness watched as their people, young and old, continued to choose awakening over suppression. Their patterns reached out to touch Vale's, sharing their happiness. Commander, they asked, do you ever miss the old way, when everything was ordered and controlled? Vale considered the question carefully, his patterns showing honest reflection, something impossible for him just months ago. Sometimes order feels safer, but now I understand what we lost when we chose control over connection. One brave child and a group of supposedly heartless humans helped us find our way back to who we really are. Parent Ray joined them, their patterns intertwining with their child's in a display of open affection. The old records say our ancestors believed they had to choose between feeling and thinking, between emotion and progress. They were wrong. We needed both all along. And now? Kate asked, watching as more starborn families arrived at the station. Now, Light and Darkness said, their patterns bright with hope. We're learning what it means to be complete. Not just thinking beings or feeling beings, but both. And we'll never forget that it was the humans, the ones we thought couldn't feel properly, who taught us how to feel again. The patterns of all the starborn present joined together, creating a symphony of light and emotion that filled the station with its beauty. It was a display that would have been forbidden just months ago. Now it was a symbol of healing, of change, and of the unexpected wisdom found in those who choose to listen to their hearts. High Commander Vale lowered his weapon slowly, his perfect composure crumbling as Light and Darkness's emotional display continued to fill the medical bay. The patterns under his skin began to shift, breaking free from their rigid geometric shapes into something more natural. "I remember," he whispered, his voice losing its mechanical precision. "When I was very young, before my correction, I could feel like this too." Light and Darkness slipped off the medical bed. Despite Dr. Anna's concerned protest, the child walked toward Vale, their aurora-like patterns reaching out to connect with his. "It's still there," Light and Darkness said gently. "The ability to feel. They couldn't remove it completely. They just buried it deep inside all of you." Assistant Ray stepped forward. "Commander, the data our parents sent proves everything. The correction was never meant to be permanent. It was an emergency measure during the Great Crisis, when our ancestors feared that strong emotions would tear our society apart." Dr. Anna checked her medical readings with growing excitement. "The suppression isn't just psychological. It's a genetic lock that's passed down through generations. But Light and Darkness's natural patterns are acting like a key, reawakening what was hidden." The other Starborn officials were showing signs of change too. Their rigid postures relaxed, and their skin patterns began flowing more freely. Some looked terrified of these new feelings, while others seemed relieved, like people finally able to breathe after being underwater too long. "Our society is built on control," Vale said, struggling to maintain his authority even as his own emotions surfaced. "Without it, we could lose everything we've achieved. Or you could gain something more valuable," Captain Kate suggested. "Look at Light and Darkness. They feel deeply, but they're not out of control. They're stronger because they understand their emotions instead of fearing them." Tom, who had been analyzing the genetic data, spoke up. "According to these records, your ancestors planned to reverse the suppression once the crisis was over. But those in power realized that an emotionless population was easier to control. They rewrote your history, making emotions seem like a weakness instead of a strength." "They lied to us," one of the younger officials said, anger clear in her voice, perhaps the first real anger she had ever expressed. Vale watched as Light and Darkness moved among his team, their natural patterns encouraging others to emerge from their artificial suppression. The child's presence was like a key turning in a long-rusted lock, awakening what had been hidden for generations. "The Council will resist this truth," Vale admitted, finally letting his own feelings show in his voice. "They've spent generations maintaining this system. The political upheaval could be devastating. Then perhaps," Assistant Ray suggested, "we need to show them what they've forgotten. Light and Darkness isn't just a child who escaped correction. They're a bridge to our past, to who we really are." Dr. Anna stepped forward with new medical readings. "The awakening process appears stable. Those affected aren't losing control. They're gaining something they lost. Commander, this could be done safely, gradually, across your whole society." "And humans?" Vale asked, looking at the station crew who had risked so much to protect one child. "Would you help us with this transition?" "Of course," Kate replied without hesitation. "That's what emotions teach us. Empathy, compassion, the desire to help others even if they're different from us. Those aren't weaknesses, Commander. They're the strongest powers in the universe." Light and Darkness's patterns brightened with joy, creating a display so beautiful that even the most resistant officials couldn't help but respond. The medical bay filled with flowing lights as more Starborn let their natural patterns emerge. "Parent Ray was right," Assistant Ray said, watching the transformation with wonder. "It was time for our people to remember. And it took those we called Heartless to help us find our hearts again." The Starborn delegation swept into Unity Station's medical bay like a cold wind. High Commander Vale led them, his tall figure radiating authority. The patterns beneath his skin moved in rigid mathematical sequences, a stark contrast to Light and Darkness's flowing, emotional displays. "This violation of Starborn sovereignty ends now," Vale announced. His voice carried no anger, just cold, calculated certainty. The defective subject will be returned to proper care. Captain Kate stepped forward, positioning herself between the delegation and the medical bed. Dr. Anna and Tom flanked her, while other station staff formed a protective circle around Light and Darkness. "The child stays here," Kate said firmly. "We have evidence of attempted murder, genetic manipulation, and a conspiracy to hide the truth about your species' history." Vale's perfect composure slipped for just a moment. "You have been deceived by a criminal. Researcher Ray betrayed our society's most sacred protocols. Their lies do not concern you." "They're not lies." Light and Darkness spoke up, their voice clear and strong. "I can feel it, all of it. The joy, the fear, the love. These humans don't suppress their feelings, and they're not weak. They're stronger because of them." The patterns under the child's skin burst into brilliant colors, spreading through the air like aurora lights. The display was beautiful and wild, making the rigid patterns of the starborn officials seem dull and lifeless in comparison. Vale took a step back, actual shock crossing his features. Impossible. Such emotional projection was lost generations ago. Lost? Dr. Anna questioned sharply. Or stolen? "The genetic evidence is clear. Your ancestors deliberately suppressed these abilities because they feared them. You're not evolved beyond emotions. You're cut off from a vital part of yourselves." One of the younger starborn officials moved closer, staring at Light and Darkness with undisguised wonder. The child's emotional display seemed to resonate with something deep inside him, causing his own patterns to flutter irregularly. "Control yourself, Assistant Ray," Vale snapped. "Ray?" Kate's eyes narrowed. "Any relation to our fugitive researcher?" The young official straightened. "Yes. Light and Darkness is my sibling. Our parents sent the proof to both of us, knowing the council would try to suppress the truth again." Vale's hand moved to a weapon at his belt. "This is your final warning." The subject. "My name is Light and Darkness." The child interrupted, their patterns flaring brighter. "And I'm not broken. I'm what we're supposed to be." Suddenly, the emotional display from Light and Darkness intensified, filling the medical bay with waves of colored light. The patterns touched each starborn official in turn, awakening something long buried. Several of them gasped, an unprecedented show of emotion. What is this?" one official whispered, touching his chest where unfamiliar feelings stirred. "It's empathy," Assistant Ray explained, his own patterns beginning to flow more naturally. "Our natural ability to share emotions, to connect with others. The gift our ancestors tried to erase." Vale raised his weapon, but his hand trembled. Another crack in his perfect control. "This contamination must be contained." "No," Assistant Ray moved to stand with the humans. "I won't let you hurt my sibling. Our parent was right. It's time for our people to remember who we really are." The medical bay doors opened again, and more station security arrived, armed but disciplined. The situation balanced on a knife's edge. "You have a choice, Commander," Captain Kate said quietly. "You can start a diplomatic crisis that will expose everything to the galaxy, or you can listen to what Light and Darkness and the genetic records are trying to tell you. Your society doesn't need to be divided between the correct and defective. You can heal this rift." Vale looked around the room, at the determined humans, at Assistant Ray's quiet defiance, and at Light and Darkness's brilliant display of natural starborn abilities. For the first time in his life, the High Commander faced a situation that no protocol could resolve. Unity Station's defense shields hummed to life as the starborn vessel took up position nearby. Inside the medical bay, Dr. Anna and her team worked tirelessly, racing to save their young patient's life, while Captain Kate dealt with the growing diplomatic crisis. "The treatment is working," Dr. Anna announced, studying the medical displays. The patterns of light under the child's skin were growing stronger, forming more natural, flowing designs. Their cellular structure is stabilizing. Tom noticed something odd about the medical scans. "Doctor, look at this genetic sequence. It's different from the starborn medical records we have. Dr. Anna frowned, comparing the readings. You're right. This isn't a mutation or a defect. It's their natural state. Someone altered the records to hide the truth. The child stirred, more alert now that the treatment was taking effect. Their aurora eyes opened fully for the first time, and to everyone's surprise, they spoke. Their voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Are you the Heartless ones?" they asked in perfect English, clearly confused. The elders said humans can't feel properly because their emotions are too strong. Dr. Anna sat beside them, smiling gently. "We feel very deeply, little one. That's why we wanted to help you. Can you tell us your name?" "Light and Darkness," they replied. "But I'm not supposed to have a name yet. Not until after the correction." "The correction?" Tom asked softly. Before Light and Darkness could answer, the medical bay doors slid open. Captain Kate entered, looking worried. "We have a problem. I've been going through the pod's data records. This wasn't an accident. Someone deliberately damaged it to make it look like one." She placed a data crystal on the medical console, and a holographic display sprang to life. It showed technical specifications, launch trajectories, and most importantly, a message. "To whoever finds my child," Kate read aloud, "I am lead researcher Ray of the Starborn Genetic Academy. What I'm about to tell you will shake the foundation of our society." Light and Darkness's patterns flickered with recognition. "That's my parent. They said they had to send me away to keep me safe." The message continued. 20 years ago, we discovered that our species' emotional suppression wasn't an evolutionary advancement as we believed. It was artificially induced by our ancestors, who feared the power of unchecked feelings. They edited our history, claiming that emotions made us weak. Dr. Anna's eyes widened. "The genetic markers we found, they're not defects at all. They're your species' original state." "Yes," Light and Darkness said quietly. "Parent Ray told me we were born differently, like the ancestors were. They said some of us still remember how to feel properly." Kate played more of the message. "My child is part of a new generation, born without the suppression markers. They are perfect as they are, living proof that our species once knew how to feel deeply without losing control. But the Council ordered all such children to undergo correction. I couldn't let them destroy this gift. That's why they're so desperate to get you back," Tom realized. "You're living proof that their whole society is built on a lie." The station shook slightly as the starborn vessel initiated docking procedures. On the security feeds, they could see a delegation of high-ranking starborn officials preparing to board. Light and Darkness sat up straighter, their patterns showing fear but also determination. "Will you protect me? I don't want to be corrected. I want to feel things like you do." Captain Kate stepped forward. "No one's going to force you to change, little one. Your parent risked everything to give you a chance at a natural life. We're not going to let that sacrifice be in vain." "But there's more," Dr. Anna said, studying the final parts of Ray's message. "They didn't just send their child to save them. They sent proof that could change starborn society forever. The question is, are we ready for what happens when that truth comes out?" The station's speakers crackled. "Unity Station, this is High Commander Vale of the Starborn Collective. Prepare for immediate boarding." The moment of truth had arrived. Unity Station appeared against the starlit background like a giant silver snowflake, its 6 arms spreading out from the central hub. The Thunder approached at full speed, its engines straining after 2 days of pushing their limits. "Unity Station Control, this is Thunder, requesting emergency docking." Mike called out, his voice tense. "Priority medical case aboard." The response came quickly. "Thunder, you're cleared for emergency docking at Arm 3, Bay 7. Medical team is standing by." On the bridge, Captain Kate watched their approach while keeping one eye on the long-range sensors. The starborn ship was still following them, only 6 hours behind now. "How's our patient?" she asked through the ship's comm. "Holding on," Tom replied from the medical bay. But barely. The cellular degradation has spread to 30% of their systems. They're fighting, though, stronger than anyone expected. The docking procedure took less than 5 minutes, a new record for the cargo ship. As soon as they were secure, the station's medical team rushed aboard, led by Dr. Anna Miller, Unity's head of xenobiology. "Brief me," she said, hurrying alongside Tom toward the medical bay. Her gray hair was tied back in a neat bun, and her eyes were sharp with focus. "Starborn child, severe cellular degradation, unknown cause," Tom explained quickly. "Standard treatments aren't working. Their emotional responses are unusually strong for their species." They reached the medical bay, where the child lay surrounded by beeping monitors. The patterns of light under their skin had grown dimmer, but they still pulsed with a stubborn rhythm. Dr. Anna's eyes widened as she examined the readings. "These patterns, I've seen something similar before. During the Nexus crisis, we treated starborn soldiers. Their biology is designed to suppress strong emotions, but this child's systems are different." "Different how?" Kate asked, joining them. "Their emotional centers are fully developed, like a human child's. Most starborn have these areas artificially suppressed shortly after birth." Dr. Anna looked up, her face serious. "This isn't a medical accident. This child was born this way. And someone tried to force a suppression procedure that their body rejected." The child stirred, their aurora-like eyes opening slightly. To everyone's surprise, they reached out and grabbed Dr. Anna's hand. The doctor gasped as patterns of light suddenly spread from the child's skin to hers, creating a brief, shimmering connection. "They're trying to communicate," she whispered. "Their species can share thoughts through bioluminescence, but it's usually strictly controlled. This little one is reaching out instinctively, like a human child would." "Can you help them?" Tom asked. Dr. Anna nodded firmly. "We'll need to synthesize new cells that match their natural pattern, not the suppressed version. It's complex, but possible. However," she hesitated. "What is it?" Kate pressed. "The Starborn will see this as a violation of their medical protocols. They believe emotional suppression is necessary for their species' advancement. Helping this child remain naturally empathic will be seen as an act of aggression." A soft whimper from the child drew everyone's attention. The patterns under their skin flickered weakly, forming beautiful but chaotic designs. "I don't care about protocols," Dr. Anna said suddenly, her voice firm. "This is a child in pain. Their body is fighting to remain as it was meant to be. We're going to help them." "Doctor," one of her assistants called urgently. "The cellular degradation is accelerating. We need to start treatment now." Dr. Anna straightened up. "Captain, can you buy us time? We'll need at least 12 hours for the initial treatment." Kate nodded grimly. "The station's defenses are stronger than our ship, and I've called in some favors. We'll hold them off." "Good," Dr. Anna said, already preparing her equipment. "Because we're about to make history. This might be the first Starborn in generations to grow up with their natural emotions intact. And maybe, just maybe, they'll help bridge the gap between our species." As the medical team began their work, the station's alert system sounded. The Starborn ship had arrived. Tom worked through the night in the medical bay, his forehead creased with worry as he tried to stabilize the alien child. The ship's systems hummed softly around him, and the medical monitors beeped in an unfamiliar rhythm, struggling to make sense of the Starborn's unusual biology. "How are they doing?" Captain Kate asked, entering the medical bay with 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Tom, who accepted it gratefully. "It's strange," Tom said, gesturing to the medical displays. "Their physiology is incredibly advanced, but something's different about this child. They're showing emotional responses that I've never seen in adult Starborn. The pain readings, stress indicators, they're all more like a human child's than a Starborn's." Before Kate could respond, the ship's communication system crackled to life. "Captain," Mike's voice was tense. "We're receiving a priority transmission from the Starborn High Command." Kate straightened her uniform. Put it through to the medical bay. The air shimmered, and a holographic image appeared. A tall starborn official stood before them, his face a perfect mask of emotionless superiority. The patterns of light under his skin moved in rigid, controlled patterns. "Captain Kate of the Thunder," he said, his voice cold and melodic. "You have recovered one of our escape pods. You will deliver it and its occupant to the nearest starborn facility immediately." Kate stepped forward. "The child is severely injured. The nearest starborn facility is 2 weeks away. They need immediate medical attention." "Your concern is noted but unnecessary," the official replied. "We are aware of this particular subject's condition. Their pod was designed to sustain them until proper recovery. Your emotional response is clouding your judgment, as is typical of your species." Tom spoke up, surprising everyone. "Sir, with all due respect, that's not true. The pod's life support systems were damaged. Without immediate care, this child will die." The starborn's face twitched slightly, the first hint of expression they'd seen. "You will comply with our directive, Captain. This is not a request. The subject is part of a sensitive matter. Your primitive medical knowledge could do more harm than good." Kate watched as the injured child stirred on the medical bed, their face contorting in pain. Despite their unconscious state, they reached out, and Tom instinctively took their small hand. The patterns of light under the child's skin brightened slightly at the contact. "No," Kate said firmly. "Excuse me." The starborn official's perfect composure slipped for a moment. "I said no. We're taking them to Unity Station. It's 3 days away and has the best medical research facility in this sector. You're welcome to send your doctors there." The official's eyes narrowed. "You dare defy direct orders. Your species' reputation for irrational behavior is well-deserved. We will not allow our young to be contaminated by your emotional instability." Contaminated. Tom couldn't hold back his anger. This child is dying. They're in pain and scared. How is that less important than your protocols? "This conversation is over," the official stated. "A starborn vessel has been dispatched to intercept you. You will face severe consequences for this defiance, Captain." The hologram vanished, leaving the medical bay in tense silence. "Captain," Mike's voice came through again. "I've accessed some public records about Unity Station. They've actually handled starborn patients before, during the Nexus crisis. They have the equipment and experience." Kate looked at the child, then at Tom. "How long do they have?" "Without proper treatment, maybe 4 days. The pod's damage caused some kind of cellular degradation. It's spreading." Kate straightened her shoulders. "Send a message to Unity Station. Tell them we're coming in hot with a priority medical emergency. Then get us there as fast as this ship can move." "What about the starborn ship?" Tom asked quietly. "They'll have to catch us first," Kate said, her jaw set with determination. "I'm not letting this child die because of their pride. Plot the fastest course, Mike. We're about to see just how much this old cargo ship can take." The lights in the medical bay dimmed as the Thunder's engines roared to full power, racing against time and the approaching starborn vessel, carrying their precious passenger toward hope, and quite possibly, an interstellar incident. The cargo ship Thunder rumbled through the darkness of space, its engines humming steadily as it carried supplies to the outer colonies. Captain Kate stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the endless sea of stars before her. The ship's night cycle was in effect, and only a skeleton crew maintained their posts. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Mike from his sensor station. His fingers danced across the holographic display. "It's small, maybe an escape pod, but the design isn't in our database." Kate walked over to his station, her boots making soft thuds against the metal floor. "Show me." The screen displayed a small object tumbling slowly through space. Its sleek, silver surface reflected the distant starlight, but dark scorch marks mirrored one side. Whatever it was, it had been through something violent. "Life signs?" Kate asked, leaning closer to the screen. Mike adjusted some settings. Very faint, but yes. One reading, and it's different from anything I've seen before. Kate didn't hesitate. Tom, get to the medical bay and prepare for a possible emergency. Jack, bring us alongside that pod. Carefully. The Thunder's massive bulk slowly approached the damaged pod. Through the bridge windows, they could now see it clearly. The design was elegant, almost artistic, with flowing lines that seemed to defy normal engineering principles. "That's starborn technology," whispered Jack, his eyes wide. Everyone on the bridge tensed. The starborn were known throughout the galaxy as one of the most advanced species, and also one of the most arrogant. They considered themselves above lesser races, particularly humans, whom they viewed as dangerously emotional and unpredictable. Kate squared her shoulders. "Doesn't matter whose tech it is. There's someone alive in there who needs help. Bring it into Cargo Bay 3. The ship's tractor beam gently caught the pod, drawing it into the waiting cargo bay. Kate and Mike hurried down, meeting Tom, who carried his medical kit. The pod's surface was warm to the touch, and up close, the damage looked even worse. "Can we open it?" Kate asked, examining the smooth exterior for any kind of control panel. As if in response, the pod's surface rippled, and a seam appeared. The top section lifted with a soft hiss, releasing a cloud of sweet-smelling gas. Inside, curled in a protective cocoon of soft, silvery material, lay a child. The child was clearly starborn. Their skin had the characteristic pale blue tint, and delicate patterns of light pulsed beneath their skin. But something was wrong. The patterns were weak and erratic, and dark bruises covered much of their visible skin. "By the stars," Tom breathed, running his scanner over the small form. "They're in bad shape. Internal injuries, severe trauma." He looked up at Kate, his face grim. "Captain, our medical equipment isn't designed for starborn physiology. I can try to help, but—" A soft whimper came from the pod. The child's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that swirled with colors like an aurora. They focused on Kate, and she felt her heart clench at the fear and pain she saw there. "The nearest starborn medical facility is 2 weeks away at full speed," Mike said quietly, checking his tablet. "In this condition, they won't make it that long," Tom finished. "They need help now." Kate looked at the injured child, then at her crew. The starborn would be furious if they knew humans were handling one of their young. The diplomatic consequences could be severe. But as she watched another wave of pain cross the child's face, she knew there was only one choice. "Tom, do whatever you can for them." "Mike, plot a course to the nearest human medical station. We're not letting this child die because of politics." As they carefully lifted the child from the pod, Kate noticed something odd. Unlike the emotionless masks starborn usually wore, this child's face showed every flicker of pain and fear. And when Tom gave them a gentle smile, they smiled back, something she'd never seen a starborn do before. There was more to this situation than a simple rescue, Kate was sure of it. But right now, all that mattered was saving a life, no matter what species they were.